Okay, well, the next point we want to go to is, well, we prefer enumeration over the ranges when we are doing the iterations or traversals. Okay, so let's have a quick review on what is range. Well, if we do the range 64, for example, and then what are the numbers inside this range? We have from 0 to 63. Okay, so you have to remember that for this point 64, it is excluded from this range. However, considering this range is starting at 0, so there are indeed a total of 64 numbers in the range. So if you do for I in the range of 64, and then you should know this iteration will run for 64 times. So we can use this code to create a random sequence of the binary numbers. Okay, well, and then, well, we can make use of this range to do iterations, but, well, usually that's not a preferred way. For example, here, well, for I have four flavors of ice creams, and vanilla, chocolate, pecan, and strawberry. And if I want to do an iteration to visit each of the flavor and then print it out, well, the easiest way is, well, we don't have to use the ranges. We can simply do for flavor in flavor list. So we are using this flavor as a control variable. So in the first round, the flavor will be vanilla. The second round, flavor will be chocolate, and the third round, the flavor will be pecan, for, well, and etc. Right? So this is called a control variable, and the easiest way to loop through a list is we can use this kind of the iteration with a control variable. Okay, and the next one. Why do we sometimes we do want to use the range to help us do the iteration? Well, usually we want to do that because we need the information about the indexes. So when I'm touching the vanilla, I for some reason I have to know that is the index 0. Okay, and say for this one, I want to print this information. So number one is vanilla, number two is chocolate, number three is pecan, and number four is strawberry. So in this way, and I know for this number, that is the index of the vanilla plus one. And then for this number, it's the index of chocolate plus one. So if I can touch the indexes, and then I can just use the index plus one. So how do I do this iteration with the indexes? Well, this is how I do that. So for I in the range of the length of the flavor list. So for the length of the flavor list, and that is 4. So for the range of the 4, and then it will give me from 0 to 3, and they are indeed the valid indexes in the flavor list. Okay, so, well, how do you like this word? So my question is, how do you like this line of code? You may find this is a little bit hard to read, right? Well, and I agree with you. And in our book, it says it is clumsy. Well, this is a new word I learned from this book. Okay, so let's see how we can make use of the enumerate. So for the enumerate, when we are enumerating a list, and then we are getting a sequence of two item tuples. So for those two item tuples, we have the index, and then we have the member on this index. Okay, when we are enumerating the flavor list, we will have 0 vanilla, and then 1 chocolate, 2 pecan, and 3 strawberry. So we have, for each pair, we have the index and then the corresponding value on that index. So that's exactly what we need, even though we still have to increase the index by 1. But, well, either way, we are going to have this one, and the outputs are exactly the same. But if you compare the way we did that, and you may find that using enumeration, if you need the index and the value at the same time, using a enumeration will be easier than using the for I in the range of the length of the flavor list. Okay, so, well, this is another way that if we if we want to use the enumeration, and then we specify where we are going to start the counting. So by default, the enumerate starts from the 0 because we are starting using the 0 as the index to grab the first value. But the enumeration can even be better than that. The enumeration when you are doing the enumeration, you can also specify where do you want the counter to begin. So if we say the counter should start from the 1, and then ta-da, we are gonna have this immediacy, and then you don't have to increase the I by 1. Okay, so I don't want to show you my answer key, of course. And okay, so let's see this exercise. So for this exercise, then we have the top top four most popular characters in the X-Men series, and we have the Wolverine and that as the first, and then Magneto the second, and the third one is Mystique. So this one is a little bit It's a little bit surprising to me. And if you want to put Storm here as the number 3, and I will still agree. Well, but Mystique is a small surprise, not a big one. And number 4 is Professor X. Okay, so well, I don't know if you're the big fans of X-Men series or not, but I was happy to see Storm as the number 5 at least. And then for Iceman, he should be one of the top 10 too. Well, that's my personal opinion. Okay, so well, how about you do that with the enumeration and then get this output? Okay, so pause this video for now, and then I'm going to show you my solutions in 5 seconds. Okay, so well, I noticed that we are counting the popularities from the 1 instead of 0, so I want to do a enumerate the X-Men popularity, and then I want to do a start from the 1, and then I want to print the popularity, and then the rank, and then the name. Okay, so well, let's move on and talk about the next point, because the next point is a small one. Well, we want to use the zip to process iterations in parallel, and this means if we have two lists, and then those two lists has a one-to-one relationship. Well, for example, we have the Cecilia list and the Marie as one of the lists, and then we are grabbing the length of those strings as the second list. So for the second list, and then it is a count of how many letters are in each of the names in the first list. So they have clearly the one-to-one relationship. So if you want to traverse or visit all those values in pairs. Say, for example, you want to get the name with the longest length. And then, well, we can do that using this way. That is, well, we know they have exactly the same number of the items in both lists. So I'm going to simply do for I in the range of the length of the names, because I know the length of the names and the length of the letters, they're exactly the same. And then I want to do comparisons, and I want to keep a record of the max letter, and then I'm also recording the longest name. So for this one, well, this is perfectly okay. Well, but to do that even better, well, we can make use of a zip. So we can simply zip the names and the letters together, and then by zipping them together, and then when we are iterating through the zipped object, and then for each round we are grabbing two things. We are grabbing the name and the count. So we are grabbing one name and then the length or the letter count of that name. So we are grabbing those two things together. So we are doing still the same iteration or the same traversal. But since we have already zipped all those values, so we don't have to worry that we mess anything up in the middle of this iteration. And then the code is also just slightly shorter. So well, using the zip to traverse two lists or two sequences when they have the one-to-one relationship, that is the right thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video here, and I will continue in the next video.